If you've been an artist for any amount of time, you've probably noticed that art supplies tends to accumulate around you. Many of these art supplies serve different purposes, and other ones are kind of redundant. And today I'm going to find out which are which, and I'm going to draw with every single blue art supply that I own. On the left of the screen, in a neat little row, I have all of my blue art supplies. And we're going to start things off using my blue Prismacolor col-erase pencil because it's the only thing I have that can erase. And you know what? I want to be able to sketch and erase, so there's that. I'm drawing pretty lightly, so I'm not going to dwell too much time on this section of the drawing, but I did want to address what I'm drawing, and I knew it was going to be with the color blue, so I had to draw something that would incorporate a lot of blue, and I came to think, what's my favorite thing that's blue? And I kept coming back to the sky. I really like looking up at the sky and just staring straight up into this endless abyss, like it just continues for eternity. I just think that's awesome. So I wanted to draw that, and I'm drawing a character that is very much inspired by the sky. I decided to do more of a daytime sky because of the colors that I had, and I thought, ooh, maybe her hair is a cloud. And then when it came to the outfit, I was like, well, what's an outfit that could be inspired by the sky? I thought maybe a jumpsuit like someone skydiving, or a flight attendant. So flight attendant is what I ultimately ended up with. So she's got like her little ascot and a little peplum top. It's not like inspired by any specific uniform, it's kind of just a mismatch of them. Then I erased everything so that the sketch was even lighter so that I could go over it with a line art, and I used this Ohu multi-liner in a pretty dark blue. I have 4 of these, and none of them have like an actual color name, so it's just a blue Ohu fine liner. This one specifically. Since I have so many different blue multi-liners, I wanted to switch them out pretty often, otherwise I was going to have a lot of leftovers at the end. So I switched to this Staedtler fine liner in a little bit of a lighter color blue, and since her hair was going to be clouds, I thought a lighter blue would be better for lining her eyebrows. Moving on to a darker version of that Staedtler fine liner, I was able to use this to do the exact same thing that I used for the Ohu fine liner. So you'll see where I'm getting to the point where I'm realizing some of my art supplies are kind of redundant and maybe I don't need to own all of these things. And we're only 3 art supplies in so far, so yeah. I also managed to draw the 2 worst hands I think I've drawn in like a year. So let's just pay tribute to those. So yeah, I used that darker Staedtler to basically outline the entire outfit. Then I switched to another Ohu fine liner and added some like sort of dimension, so like darker lines under some of the sections where like, you know, light wouldn't be hitting if this was a 3D object. And then I switched to a lighter Ohu fine liner to add the line art of her scarf that's around her neck. And I also just sort of went around where I'd already put line art with the same color to kind of make it a bit bolder. And then using my final blue Ohu fine liner, I just sort of went over the same lines again, mostly because I didn't really know what to do with this because I had so many of these, and this is where, yeah, redundancy, right? Bored of using fine liners, I decided to completely switch up the medium and use watercolors. This is a cerulean blue, and I used it to paint in the sky background. I kind of messed up at first, so it's a bit blotchy, but I kind of figure out what I was doing as I go along, and I put down a lot of this color. I think I spent a lot more time than I plan on showing you with it, but yeah, just I wanted there to be some texture because there's supposed to be a lot of clouds, but kind of wish it had been a little bit smoother, especially since when I go over this with a lot more of the art supplies, you'll see on the left there's still a lot more to go. I had to find places to put those, and it ended up being a lot of it in the sky as well. So it doesn't really matter that this ended up being kind of blotchy. So next I went in with this Prussian blue watercolor and darkened up the lower half of the sky. I had found this reference on Pinterest of this, it was still a blue sky, but the stars were just starting to appear in like, so it was like just becoming nighttime, and it was so pretty, and I was very inspired to darken the sky because of that, and I'm so glad that I did because later I do something that we'll see when I get there. You'll just have to wait. Painting the sky, I definitely realized that I quite enjoy using watercolors as a medium, so not only am I learning which supplies I have that are redundant, but I'm also learning which supplies I prefer to use, so Yeah, it's a pretty cool exercise, I guess. The next art supplies I used was this blue Posca pen, something I don't have a lot of experience with. I know they're kind of like opaque markers, and I basically just used this, since it's kind of a dark color, to create a bold line at the bottom of the illustration and sort of faded it out with strokes to add texture. That was a bit experimenting on my part. Next up, I'm sure you've used one of these before in your lifetime. It is a blue Crayola magic marker. And honestly, I can say after having finished this illustration now, this was not my least favorite art supply to use, so I had a lot of fun with this one. I basically used it to sort of blend out some of the Posca, and then also to create sort of like a cartoony, harsh shadow under some of the clouds. Next, I moved into my Ohu alcohol-based markers, which I love. I have several blue ones, so this is a bit of a process. The first one is this one, and this is kind of where things start getting pretty redundant. I basically just used it to blend out the sky and make it darker and like try to create as smooth a gradient as possible. Next up, and this is quite fitting, I use this Windsor Newton brush marker in the color Sky Blue. So I basically applied this as many places as possible because I'm like, well, this is like literally the color of sky, so I guess I need to use a lot of it. That was my logic anyway. After that, I used this Crayola Crayon, and if there was any art supply that I would have like purposefully left out and pretended I didn't own, it would have been these crayons. Like, I feel like they just didn't add to the picture. I mean, they added a lot of texture, but not texture that I very much like. So, oh, and because crayons are, you know, waxy, it's kind of hard to build other things up on top of them. Although I try. Just wait and see. Next up, I used another Windsor Newton brush marker. This one was Cool Aqua, and I used this to color in the skin. After I'd colored in the first arm, I kind of decided to artistically only color the top half of the skin, like there was light illuminating from underneath her in some way. I really liked the way that looked, especially on the face. I don't know if it makes any sense, but the one arm I didn't do that with, and I kind of wish I had, but oh well. I really like this color, and I also noticed, because I swatched out all of these colors beforehand so that I would kind of know where maybe I'd like to put them when it came to drawing the actual illustration, and I noticed that, oh, but first I'm using this Molotov water-based marker. But yeah, just because the color is blue doesn't mean they all look the same. Like, there are cool blues and there were warm blues, and then I also had some sort of green blues, and this is like the lightest of my green blues. And I purposely decided, and you'll see this as I continue on this artistic journey, that I decided to use all of my green blues on the character to try and separate her from the background. And can I just say, I really like this Molotov marker. Like, I totally forgot I even owned these. I think they came in a scroller box like years ago, and they're basically watercolors that are in like a dual tip brush pen marker thing, and so I'm able to get, I can like layer them up and get more shading that way, and I don't know, I just had a lot of fun with these, and I think I'm gonna have to dig out the other colors and play with them again. Using another one of my greenish blue art supplies, I'm using the Edding 1200. This is like a metallic and opaque pen marker thing. I'm not entirely sure which one you would consider it, but it's really cool, and like it's hard to go over the same place more than once. It starts to like scratch away at itself, so I had to be very purposeful in where I would stroke the paper with this. That was a really weird way to say that. And literally only because I really enjoyed using this pen, I decided to add like a little bit of detail to the bottom of her skirt, like a little embroidery design of like clouds and dots. But yeah, I really like this pen. I think it stands out as one of my favorite blue art supplies. Using another alcohol-based marker, this is the Style File marker, and it's definitely the stinky uncle of my blue art supplies. PU. Stinky. Next up is the Who marker dual tip thing. It's called a marker. I would consider it a brush pen, more so. I use these mostly for bullet journaling, so it was kind of interesting trying to use them for an actual illustration. I really like how like royal and dark and blue this one is, so I used that to darken up again that bottom edge of the sky. After that, I used this blue Crayola marker. This is equivocally a dry erase marker with texture, so it's not really meant for paper, but I managed to find some place to stick it on this illustration. It's also kind of opaque, so I had to be careful where I put it. Another one of my go-to faves, this is the Paper Mate blue highlighter. Before I owned like any alcohol-based markers, these were basically what I used because you could layer them up and, you know, get some nice shading going on. So I definitely still recommend these highlighters. I love them. And these two, I apparently forgot to film close-ups, but these are just two very basic Crayola colored pencils. I have like a darker blue and a lighter blue, and I used these to shade around the face because I had such a good experience shading the face when I did that Crayola challenge a couple weeks ago. So I was like, hey, that really turned out pretty well. So I feel very comfortable going in on this face and like adding a little bit of like blue blush and little nose shading. Still using colored pencils. I have this Koh-I-Nor watercolor pencil, so I basically just used my paintbrush, dipped it in water, and then dipped it on the end of the of the pencil, and then applied that to the illustration that way, so I didn't have to like actually draw with it. And this really helped to like smooth out some of that background texture that I got from the crayon and some of the markers. So I was happy to have another watercolor. I meant to keep this video under 10 minutes, but that's not gonna happen, so I'm gonna talk a little bit faster. These are Sharpies. I'm sure you know what they are. I used those in these illustrations as well. I had 3 blue Sharpies, so 3 blue Sharpies were used on this illustration in different sections of it. Was that vague enough for you? But yeah, I noticed that a lot of the colors that I had left were all very dark, and I wasn't sure where I was going to be able to put them in the illustration, so I decided to add some like shadows of clouds in the background with these darker blues, and I think that really helped add depth to the background, and so yeah, I'm kind of happy with that. And even here, my third and lightest Sharpie was really, really dark, so I was able to add more dark clouds with that. And my final colored pencil is the Faber-Castell Gold Faber Aqua, which is actually a watercolor pencil, but I just used it as a pencil. And I added more shading to the face, darkened that up a little bit. I previously used a blue Ohu alcohol-based marker in this illustration already, but here are 3 more that I owned, and I used these as well. Basically just going about the picture, using the ones that are the lightest and the darkest for different things. Oh, this commentary is really running out of things to say. Not only is there redundancy in the art supplies, there is redundancy in the commentary. Oh, hey, well this one, I totally forgot this thing even existed. This is like the Sakura Micron brush pen, I think. It's blue, so I had to use it, and I managed to luckily find it. It was actually on my desk this whole time, but it was like, you know, in one of those cups that like has art supplies in it that you like never use, but like it looks cute because it's there on your desk and it says, hey, I'm an artist. Look, this is the desk of an artist because it's a cup full of art supplies. And these are my last 2 blue Ohu dual tip brush pens. I actually used the lighter one to shade the kneecaps, which was an interesting choice. And I used the brush side of the pen for that. And then for the darker one, I actually used the fine point to add like sort of, not texture, just sort of outline the shape of hair in the cloud of her hair, if that makes any sense at all. Hands down, the aesthetically weirdest marker I own is the Artline Sticks brush pen. It looks like a Lego, I still don't know why, it just does. This is the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen in a metallic blue. Since this one's metallic, I used it to just add little earrings to her ear. Who'd have thought? Earrings in an ear. We're really nearing the end here. Ooh. Okay, so this is the blue Jelly Roll pen. Didn't use this for much, basically just used it to darken her eyelashes, make it look like she's wearing some falsies. I have another Crayola Crayon, another dark blue color. This I actually used to sort of send some of those wispier clouds further into the background by shading over them a bit, and I kind of like the texture on them. I think it's kind of cool. Don't love it, but hey, do what you gotta do. Oh, and then I realized I forgot the color in her leg, so here I'm trying to figure out which marker I used for that because I've used so many since then I couldn't remember, but luckily I did go with the right one. It was that Windsor Newton marker, so I just shaded that. And then we reached the final art supply! Woo! It says the Whole Bean Acrylic Gouache in, you guessed it, blue. I used this to soften up any like harsh edges that were left over from the less forgiving art supplies and basically add blue to anywhere that I felt still needed to be bluer. But I wasn't done there. But wait, there's more. I decided to go in with a white gel pen. This is the Signo Uniball White Gel Pen, and add stars to the darker sections of the sky, like the night is just starting to fall. But yeah, I mentioned earlier that I saw this picture on Pinterest that was so gorgeous, so I just needed to emulate that in some small way so that I would never forget how beautiful that picture was. So yeah, I did that and I really like it. I feel like it adds a little extra pop or zing of interest to this illustration. I also was planning on making her hair of her cloud stand out more from the background, but looking at it now, I kind of like that I'd left it sort of wispy, like it almost blends with the background, because I feel like that makes her hair more cloud-like in a way, because it's more part of the background. I don't know, you can let me know if you feel the same way. Anyway, this was me using, I think it was, did you count while I was making them? I think it was 39 different blue art supplies. Yeah, it was definitely a fun challenge. I know which supplies I don't really care to ever use again. I know which ones work really well. I know which ones were redundant. And I also kind of rekindled some love for like those Molotov markers. And yeah, I'm kind of really glad I did this. So thank you guys for suggesting it. Last time I did this with the purple art supplies, almost every comment was like, do this with this color, do this with that color. So I decided to do it with blue. I hope you enjoyed yeah, watching me use all of my blue art supplies. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys all next week, and I hope you have a delicious evening full of waffles. Bye!